Question number 6. Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he stand by all his statements?
The Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker, in the context in which they were made.
Very good. Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Does he stand by his statement of September the 6th, 2014 in relation to the sale of Lochinvar Station, quote, "We will not block that sale"?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I don't actually recall the context in which that statement was made. What I can say is decisions made about that sale have been made consistent with the law, with the Minister exercising your statutory responsibility, knowing that, like the Crayford decision, it could be reviewable by the court.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Which of the following statements is correct? Paula Bennett, who said that the large size of the Lochinvar station was a factor in the decision to reject the bid to purchase it, or Stephen Joyce, who said it was, quote, "a ridiculously small amount of land in the North Island"?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I think the member needs to understand the way that this process actually works. Anyone can have an opinion. Anyone can have an opinion about any particular transaction, but the decision is actually made by two ministers who have to ensure that the application complies with, I think, 23 separate tests. The fact is, New Zealand has, by any world standard, a tough set of tests for anyone to be able to buy sensitive land in New Zealand.
Question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Does he agree with Stephen Joyce's statement that opposition to the sale of Lochinvar Station is, quote, xenophobia?
The Honourable... Order.
Well, Mr
Order.
Speaker...
We're descending back to where we were last week with a continual interjection going across between front benches. It will cease. The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, if he was making that statement about Labor Party opposition, then it certainly would be xenophobic because they oppose anyone with a Chinese name buying anything in New Zealand. What else could he call it?
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Does he stand by John Key's statement, quote, "We as a government try to be both predictable and consistent, and I think that is really important when it comes to foreign investors," end quote. And how does he think accusing anyone who opposes the sale of xenophobia, accepting 716 applications and now accepting one, might be inconsistent and hypocritical rather than consistent and predictable?
Order. Very long question. The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, I don't believe the Prime Minister is hypocritical. I believe that a party who pretends that it stands for diversity and welcoming of migrants and then says if you've got a Chinese name you're not allowed to buy property, that might meet the criteria the member referred to.
Order. Supplementary question, Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he stand by his statement that climate change presents a significant challenge to the country's infrastructure, and therefore will he extend the sentiment in that statement to agree with Pope Francis, who said recently in his encyclical Laudato Si that climate change represents one of the principal challenges facing humanity today?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes and no.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does he agree with the International Energy Agency, the World Bank, the OECD and the United Nations, who have warned that at least 2/3 of discovered fossil fuels will have to stay in the ground to avoid catastrophic climate change, and hence will he support moves to divest from fossil fuels?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I haven't seen the advice given by those organisations, but probably the best thing the member can do to ensure those fossil fuels stay in the ground is stop using his car, stop catching a bus and bike everywhere. And stay out of the airplanes.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr Russell Norman.
Does the Minister understand that it's about structural change so that we can have low carbon alternatives? And is it ethical? Is it ethical for the New Zealand Super Fund to be investing in fossil fuel companies, effectively taking a bet that the world will take no action to avoid catastrophic climate change?
Again, either of those two supplementaries, the Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think it's a kind of Green Party ethics that said it's a structural problem about which they don't have to do anything in their personal capacity, like stop catching planes.
Question. Order.